Thank you, everyone. Hope that break was quite useful for everyone. And I'm very excited after a first panel, but I'm even more excited for this next discussion. And moderating this next discussion is Mr. Brian Fonseca, Director of the Jack D. Gordon Institute for Public Policy and Executive Director of Cybersecurity at FIU. Brian, take it away.
Thanks, Randy. I'll tell you, your panel is going to be a hard one to follow. Exceptional discussion this morning. Good afternoon, everyone. It's great to be back and have an opportunity to moderate this next panel on diversifying the cybersecurity workforce. And like the last panel, I expect it to also be an incredibly lively discussion, one that I think sequentially should take place in the broader context of understanding how to increase the cybersecurity workforce. It's not just about the number of professionals that we skill, upskill, or reskill to address the cyber threats emerging, but it's also about the composition of that workforce, ensuring that that workforce is diverse intellectually, diverse and representative of the societies that they're serving in. And so I think this discussion hopefully will start to get at some of those really important elements of sort of texture of cybersecurity workforce. So let me introduce three exceptional speakers that I'm really excited to hear from this afternoon. And then I'll ask them to provide some opening remarks, and then we'll sort of drive a Q&A just like we did in the last panel. So in introducing the panelists, first we have Ms. Teresa Thompson, who is Program Lead of Neurodiverse Talent Enablement at MITRE Corporation. She's an inclusion and diversity activist, spearheading an autism at work pilot at MITRE with federal agencies, sponsors to recruit folks on the autism spectrum to work in cyber and other high-tech fields. Teresa, welcome. Next, we have Krista Gauthier, who is founder and executive director at Sliding Doors STEM and Dyslexia Learning Center. She has over 10 years of experience in education, both as a teacher and a researcher in educational theory and curriculum. Welcome, Krista. And then finally, but certainly not least, we have Silvia Beltrán. She is a customer service manager at Trend Micro, Mexico, where she contributes her experience of current business needs and cybersecurity terms in partnerships with business associations. She holds a degree in electronic systems engineering from Technological Institute of Higher Studies in Monterey. And so welcome, Silvia. So I'd like to ask our speakers some general questions and then have them sort of take a chop at a broad ranging question on diversifying the workforce. And then from there, I'll take the opportunity to drill down and ask a few follow-on questions. And then, of course, begin taking and fielding questions from the broader audience. So as our speakers are talking, I'm monitoring the chat closely, so feel free to toss your questions in the Q&A box, and I'll definitely weave them into the discussion. And so I'm going to toss panelists. I'm going to toss a broad question out, and if we can sort of tackle it in the same order that I introduce you, we'll start with Teresa, Krista, and then with Silvia. And so so let me start with again important but albeit broad question. Why is it important for companies, for countries, to focus on diversity and inclusion within the cybersecurity workforce? How does the intentional focus on inclusion and diversity in cybersecurity better sort of protect and safeguard our societies from the rapidly growing cybersecurity threat landscape? And so with that very broad question, Krista, do you want to take a first shot at it? Krista, you're muted.
I just figured that out. Thank you, Brian. So thank you for the wonderful introduction. Thank you to the entire team for having me today. So, you know, diversity is obviously something we've talked about for quite some time. And, you know, it's only recently that we started to talk more specifically about this concept of neurodiversity. And neurodiversity is something that should be of particular interest to the cybersecurity workforce, because in addition to people who are neurodiverse, and when I talk about neurodiversity, I'm talking about people with autism, dyslexia, ADHD, it's because it's not just that they will offer a different perspective, but they offer a different skill set. as well, right? So their brains, because of the way they're wired, offer some amazing skills and abilities that help solve the very critical questions that cybersecurity is looking to solve. And so by broadening out that definition of diversity to include neurodiversity, you're going to find that you will not only get that difference in perspective, but you'll be able to solve some of the problems that are facing the industry.
Thanks, Krista. Teresa.
Mostly what Krista said, but I hope we get to go back a little bit and talk about the programs. I think we were going to start with it, or we can, get into that here in a little bit. The work that Krista is doing is pretty amazing with students who are dyslexic, and our focus is on autism, but she's exactly right. It's that bringing in those different perspectives, and the problems we're trying to solve, are really complex and really hard to get at, and you need to look at it from all angles. You need to bring every sort of skill set you can to that focus. And my favorite quote is one of our guys at MITRE, who is on the autism spectrum. Was speaking to some students, and he said, here's what I do, guys. I think out of the box. Literally, it's all I can do. I cannot think within the box. My brain does not fit in that box. All I can bring you is out of the box thinking. And that's how they solve problems on his team, because he's coming at it from a totally different angle. I mean, also we all know that the pool is not as big as we need for the work that needs to be done. And so I think thinking in other ways about who we're targeting as we bring them in, and that's not just neurodiversity. And we need to start being creative about where we go to look for that talent.
Thanks, Teresa. And you're hitting on a really important aspect of the task, and that's ensuring intentionality and how we recruit and cultivate the talent to serve in the cybersecurity workforce. Thanks for that. And Teresa, I promise we'll come back to kind of fielding or surveying the different types of programs that you are all focused on that sort of lend itself to, again, ensuring inclusion and diversity across the cybersecurity workforce. I wanted to start with this broader question, just to kind of get the juices going, and then we'll start to drill down. So, okay, Silvia, over to you.
Hi. Well, first of all, thanks so much for the invitation. Actually, I think that diversity, it's specifically over cybersecurity. It's more not just what we are trying to do about diversity, it's because we also need more people in the good side. I mean, what we are seeing, what the relevance that it's taking all the cybersecurity over the market, over us as digital citizens, as customers, we need more people, more talent, more different kind of perspectives, so we can get into the good side about cybersecurity. And we need a lot of people in this side. We have a lot of about 2 million missed positions, because we need more people going here, and the women, its participation is really low. So I think that it's something that we can encourage and actually show them and show all of us that it's great to have a career in cybersecurity. So I think it's a lot of diversifying, but also because it's something that the world is needing, and we need to fight that talent to come from the good side, not just not just about women or genders. It's about, we need more on the good side. Maybe it's the our cybersecurity. It's talking about who is taking that talent, the bad side or the good side. So we need to encourage them to come here and be more and do better things for humanity in this side.
That's a great point, Silvia. I hadn't thought about it from that perspective, that part of our recruitment strategy is to erode the workforce out there for bad people to do bad things in cyberspace, and pull them into the sphere of good people doing good things for cyberspace. And I think that's a brilliant sort of approach to thinking about it. And when you think about it in that context, and you start to go into spaces that you normally wouldn't recruit from, and sort of pull that talent into the cybersecurity workforce. So I appreciate that. And I think all three of you hit on it in some opening thoughts, and that is, it's not just about diversity and inclusion because it's a trend. It's about truly building out the kind of workforce that has a broad and deep sort of understanding of the social, political, security landscapes, intellectually, also representative of their respective societies. And it ultimately lends to just a far more impactful and effective workforce. And I think that's the challenge, right? The challenge is mapping that intentional recruitment to a highly effective and capable workforce that's going to mitigate not just the threats that are pervasive today, but those threats that are forthcoming in the future. And so I want to survey, now that we sort of get that broad sweep out here, I want to get a sense of what are some of the more specific best practices that you've seen or that you're doing that helps us get at the intentional diversifying of the workforce. If we can just go around the Zoom and again, sort of survey the types of practices or the types of programming that you're doing that again is impactful against the cybersecurity workforce diverse needs. And so let's go in reverse order. And so Silvia, I'll start with you, and then Teresa, you're still stuck in the number 2 spot, and then we'll round out with Krista. Silvia, go for it.
Sure. Well, I think that what we try to do, and every time we try to hiring or that we are doing new projects, so we can go for with that goal of diversifying and inclusion. I think that the best practice we made is just thinking as humans. It feels some kind of weird, I know my word, but it's about humans. It's about skills and potential. So what we did is focus on humans and what we need and what are those skills and that potential that maybe it's not what the people has today, it's what we can help them develop and find a wonderful career in cybersecurity. And also one thing that we made really conscious, it's it's just a number thing that if you have, I don't know, 100 guys trying to apply to a position, you will have on 100 maybe 5 women. So what we did is trying in that case to say, okay, we'll be 50-50. We know that it will be more effort, it will be more time, but that's the way that we try. At the end, yeah, it would be about skills and potential, attitude, not just hard skills, it's about soft skills. And after that, what we did is, okay, let's go 50-50. We know that it will be harder, but that make us do it in a more creative way, found different ways so we can encourage girls and we can find them, because they are there in the market, but we need to find them, or if not, they are not, it's what are we doing or what can we do so we can develop and we can give that welcome to these girls, or to encourage them to go on a IT environment, career, or focus on that, so we can then help them develop hard skills, for example. So it's more about thinking about the skills, potential, and encourage and obligate us to say 50-50. So it will be the same opportunity for all of them, but the challenge will be in found the other 50% and made it 50%. So that's the way some of the best practice with that.
Thanks, Silvia. Teresa.
I love that, because we value what we measure. And, that works, especially in industry. We're going to pay more attention to the things we're measuring. And I like that, going with the numbers. And there are a lot of folks I talk to do that as well. There's a few things. So there, of course, I'm partial to the stuff that we're working on, but I want to start with one that's really simple, and that everybody can do, and you don't have to have any special skills. Fix your job descriptions. Fix your job descriptions. Fix. If you hear nothing else at all today, and you are trying to recruit talent from across the globe, fix your job descriptions. And it's been hit on before that people are asking for these, super cyber ninjas. They want to pay them a starting salary. We want you to have 10 years of experience in something that's only been around for 2 years. And just the crazy things we ask for in our job descriptions. If you can use that nice framework and pare down that role description to exactly what is needed to do that role, some things are going to happen. Women who won't apply to a role unless they feel like they really, really can meet all those requirements are going to apply if they meet your basic requirements. You don't have 12 extra things in there. And then there's a whole other group of folks, lots of other groups of folks who've been told their whole lives they can't, or they don't fit, or they're not quite right for other reasons. They're looking for why they're not quite right for this as well. And if you take out as much as possible, they're not going to find things that make them not right. And that especially applies to folks on the autism spectrum, because that lists to them as law. And I have listened to a phone conversation with a woman telling a candidate, I wrote this job description for you to have this role. And he said, yeah, but this one thing, I didn't really study it very much. I don't really know that much. The less you have in that job description, the more open the pool who applies to it is going to be. So that's the super easiest one. And then we're doing some really targeted recruiting of folks on the autism spectrum. And we do that within MITRE through an internship program. So it's sort of low risk for the managers. We do a lot of training. It's wonderful for the students. It's a great opportunity for them. In my mind, this is a manager apprenticeship program more than it is an internship program for my students, so that my managers get a chance to work with people they wouldn't normally think about working with, see how great they are, take on that low risk. We give them lots of training. We give lots of reach back, contact them every other week, make sure everything's going well. And we're supporting the students so they're not panicked about the students being left behind. And we're looking to do that with more groups than just folks on the autism spectrum. And it really has been super valuable for the managers to take some of that fear out for them in trying out different groups. It's not easy. It's not easy to have a diverse team. It's not easy to bring in women to a team that is all men. It's a whole different language. It's you can't sit, I don't know, whatever, right? It's hard. It is so worth it. And so if we can, like Silvia says, use those numbers to have people take that risk, provide a lot of support, make it as easy as possible, low risk, people find out that it's so worth whatever little bit of stress it causes to get that diversity on your team.
Thanks, Teresa. That's absolutely brilliant. And you're absolutely right. It is fundamentally important to get the job description right, because I've seen it. I've talked to companies here in South Florida repeatedly about the fact that they build these really complex job descriptions that eliminate so many, from the application pool, when in reality, they didn't need half of the things that they threw in that job description. They just were hoping to find a unicorn out there that had every certification possible. And it wasn't really a necessity. And so I think that's spot on. I'll also seize the opportunity, by the way, to plug the FIU MITRE strategic partnership, because our program also helps feed into the MITRE cybersecurity workforce. And so MITRE has come to FIU as a minority serving institution to field internship programs that pathway our students that are largely Hispanic into the MITRE cybersecurity workforce. And so you touched on internships, and I wanted to seize the opportunity to just brag about the work that MITRE and FIU are doing together in the cybersecurity workforce. So thanks for that opportunity for a shameless plug of our partnership. Krista, over to you.
I'd like to take this, as I was saying, from both a short-term and a long-term picture, right? So I'd like to piggyback a lot of what Teresa said. Some of this is, we've got to focus on how do you get the neurodiverse population into the workforce now, right? So we have this group of people who have this incredible skill sets, whether it be people on the spectrum have dyslexia, And they already are here. They're ready to work in this space. So how do we make that happen? And Teresa's exactly right. Things like job descriptions, all these things that we take for granted, who are people who are more neurotypical, right? You know, someone at the end of the last panel talked about fit, right? Like when you think about, does someone fit a role? Well, that sort of comes with this predefined notion, right? That really limits like the job pool. And so, you know, Teresa talked specifically about autism and that sort of list of, you know, they take it as law, right? Well, in the case of someone who's dyslexic, right, now you talk about things like spelling being a barrier, right? Or their ability to communicate effectively in writing. They're much better speaking than they are writing, right? So how are you interviewing them? What kind of questions are you asking them? You know, maybe it's about changing your interview process, about letting them do a day on the job as opposed to sitting and answering questions, you know, so sort of reimagining, how do you attract them? How do you interview them? How do you bring them in? But from a long-term perspective, we already have a ever shrinking pool of people that we can recruit from in these kinds of STEM spaces like cybersecurity. And so we have to, like my program specifically addresses this concept of a kindergarten to workforce pathway, right? So by the time that people even get to college, you know, a lot of people focus on how do I recruit college students? And that's great for the short term. But for the long term, you've got to be thinking like, by the time they even get to college, how many kids have we lost? How many potential amazing people have we let drop off the pathway, right? And so the program we created is meant to get them right at the elementary level, get them the reading they need, the reading help they need, because they, with dyslexia, they need a specific way to learn to read, but to also give them STEM enrichment that puts them on the path towards cybersecurity or other STEM fields, so that, you know, 10, 15 years from now, you've got a much larger pool to pull from. So you've been in the short term honing in your hiring practices and, you know, and making sure that you're ready for this like absolute flood of people you're going to get, like if you start working on this sort of concept of kindergarten to workforce.
Thanks, Krista. I think that's awesome. I mean, essentially what you're saying is recruit the athlete, train the sport, right? I mean, go for talent down the ranks in primary and secondary education to cultivate that talent and then train the skills needed, not for the workforce today, but for the workforce tomorrow. And I think that's really important. Oftentimes strategies miss K through 12 space. Teresa, you want to jump in? Go.
Yeah, I just want to tie all those together, right? So, and we go into that, what does the job description require, talking about those students that fall through the cracks, and back to what Silvia said about which path are they going to take? Who hacks into the school systems? It's not the straight A student with a scholarship waiting for them, right? It's the student at risk for dropping out, and they're really good at hacking into your system. You want those guys on your side. So when you build in a bachelor's degree as a requirement, you automatically lost them. Sometimes if you build in a high school degree requirement, you lose those guys. And so how do you, and I don't know the answer for this, how do you recruit, you know, the ones that are headed that way, who are probably going to be phenomenal at what you need them to be? And it's something, Silvia, do you have an answer for that question? I know you brought that up, but.
Well, if I have the answer, the total group, but what I know is that we have been working for the last maybe 5 years around the globe, exactly of what you are saying. There is a lot of talent that maybe because of familiar things or life or whatever, they need to take some different decisions that make them a part of the education or the college or whatever. But they still have a lot of talent. They have a lot of skills. They have a lot of soft skills and values. So what we have been doing on the last years, it's some kind of programs that we do. It's, as Krista told, it's not about the talent that it's now. It's about how you prepare the talent, the future talent. Mm-hmm. So there is one of these programs. It's about recruiting people that maybe right now they are, I don't know, they may be on the Starbucks, maybe they are attending someone over the gym, but they are really good at, for example, customer service. So those are the ones that we need here that we can help them to have a career in cybersecurity, because they are already that talent. The only thing that we did is help them to give them the opportunity, because that's all they need. Because sometimes, because if you don't have a degree over maybe one college ABC, then it's like, bah, you should not work over a global corporation. So this is not like this. It's really to go for the talent, for the humanity, as I talked at first, and say, okay, they need a first opportunity, or they need a new opportunity so they can have a new career there. So maybe they don't even know nothing about IT, nothing about cybersecurity, but you can teach them that, and they will give back what they are as humans, with skills, with talent, with values. And on the other hand, what we have is for technical guys, for example, it's when you are finishing the career and you say, I will buy all the world and the world is mine. But sometimes it's, yeah, but in cybersecurity, there's another challenge. And I think it's what Krista talked also about the job, Teresa, about the job description that you talked. It's, yeah, we want cybersecurity, but we want that they have 5 years of experience and that they know certifications A, B, C, D, E. But once you go, it's, which on IT, for example, you have a lot of paths that you can take. How can we encourage them to come here to cybersecurity? So what we did is, for example, a program that we recruit talent. Maybe they are finishing their career. Maybe they are not finishing it, but they have some skills already for the technical side. And what we did is a program about 7 weeks, for example, when we help them and we train them, not just about certifications, about hard skill over infrastructure or what we are needing over cybersecurity. It's also about business. It's also about working in teamwork. It's working, thinking differently, trying to understand, to be that kind of empathy with the customer, with cybersecurity, to understand the impact. So what we did is we prepared them so they can have the first opportunity. And after that, we made it over, maybe we can hire some of them, but the most of them will go over partners, will go over customers. We go over, they will be hired from somewhere over the market, but they will be prepared, because there is a lot of talent, but we are missing who is taking the risk to give them the first opportunity, to prepare, to show themselves that they are capable. So I don't know if that's the great answer, but there's something that I have been living on the last 5 years, and it's amazing the talents that we are seeing and how this is moving. Inclusion and diversifying, and how you can really empower people, not just people. And that's something that we do, for example, to have at least 50% of women participating in these programs, at least. But we're trying to move it to 70-30, so we can have more opportunities and encourage more girls to come here to cybersecurity. There's something that we do.
That's bold, 70-30. That's crazy.
That is pretty bold. Silvia, I want to stay with you for a second because there's a question in the chat related largely to what you're talking about in terms of recruiting those that may be on pathways to, lives of crime or other things that, that would sort of have huge, opportunity costs for their lives. How do you compel, and I think you sort of hit on it a little bit, but how do you compel those that see lucrative opportunities, those that see sort of the appeal of organized crime as a pathway, how do you compel them to avoid going down that path and coming back towards the path, of public service and I guess working for the good team?
I I think that there is a lot of maybe what would we try to attack. I don't know if that's the correct way to say it. It's go for the values of the people. So sometimes when you have the empathy about knowing what you are impacting and what you are doing, you take a different awareness of what you are doing. So sometimes what we try to do all the time in all the things that we did, what I'm trying to do all my days, and that's why I love working here, it's trying to inspire. So sometimes what we did, it's not just about just a cybersecurity corporation, and it's more about what we are trying to accomplish for the world, for the humans, for the customers, and of course all the relevance that it's taking all the digital life, because all we have a digital life. When you try to show even on a digital life, those values are what we're trying to achieve, and also exposing in a right way what a bad decision can do. Right now, we can see that bad decisions or the bad path, it also put in risk human lives. So there's something that we see that it's part of our day over day, and we try. That's why it's so important for us to bring the talent with this side, with the good side of the force. Maybe if I saw, maybe it's like Star Wars, but it's also because we really believe in people, because that's the real goal, I think, and that's the way that we can accomplish our vision. We have, if we talk about business, we have a lot of investments that we do over research, and a lot of payments that the company did, so they can have more analysts that want to sell their knowledge or their discoveries, for example, for vulnerabilities in the market, that it's better to bring them back to the white side instead of the underground or the web or the black market. There's something that we did about business, and that is because we believe in people. That's why it's okay. What is the driver for that people to go to the bad path? A lot of times it's because of money. So white side could also have money. White side could also have success. White side, you can also do a lot of things and impact a lot of persons and business, but in a right way. So what we try to achieve in different ways, even for business, for humans, for managing, from the culture, it's believe in people, go and go for the values, and try to have, as we did it all of the days, be the best part of yourself. There is something that we did, or we have in mind in this company. And when you are the best part of yourself every day, that's where you try to do and inspire others. So maybe it sounds a little utopic, but that's the way that we believe it's the way to have more on the good side. And that's the reason why we do what we do.
I think
Thanks, Silvia.
To play off of that.
Yeah.
Just to say, to play off of that a little bit, that's a lot of times, besides just money, what you have when you're in the hacker world is acceptance for who you are and for the skills. And you can present yourself as anybody you want to be, but you're accepted for what you can do and how you are. And some of that, all this we're talking about with diversity is creating a space in your organization where people can be who they are and thrive as they are and feel successful as they are, and not have to go pretend there's somebody else to get that acceptance. And that's part of that, being welcoming, on the right side of things, I think. And Krista, I think, is the genius of her program, is that she's starting that at the point when they start to hear that they are unacceptable as they are, and changing that voice track for them from early days.
Right, and that's, I'm going to piggyback off of that, Teresa. Thank you for that. Yeah, I mean, that's what I talked about with that long-term solution, right? So if you're talking about, I mean, you've got to face the short term, but when it comes to the dyslexia world, 1 in 5 people are dyslexic, right? But at the same time, 48% of the prison population is dyslexic, right? So there's something going on that is creating this divergent path. So while you have MIT calling dyslexia the MIT disease because so many people at MIT are dyslexic, right? You've also got 48% of the prison population. So how do you get them onto that path, right? I mean, it's why we call our organization sliding doors. Let's slide one door shut and open up another, right? And so, I would contend that, you've got to get them, like Teresa said, in that early stage, but, change their inner voice track. If you want them to follow a path into cybersecurity, then you really do have to focus on them when they're young. And you have to, these, people who are neurodiverse hear what they can't do every single day in school, every single day, so that by the time you actually get to high school, college, they just believe they can't be somebody who's integral to the cybersecurity workforce, right? I mean, so they just don't even bother, right? They go to the dark side, they go towards these because they're highly intelligent and highly skilled. So what do? They take their skills and they apply them to something that isn't serving the common good. So, it really is critical to get them at that young age.
So Krista, let's stay there for a moment because there is a question in the chat about the K through 12 space. And so for you and maybe others on the panel that want to address it, one of the participants asked, when we talk about K through 12, what are some strategies for engaging K through 12 education systems? And are there best practices that can be shared? So Krista, can you take a first swing at that? And then if others on the panel want to talk about their experiences in the K through 12 space as well?
Absolutely. So I would say 2 things to that. One is that in terms of it, engaging with the educational system, I think for right now, I mean, our educational system, especially coming out of COVID, right, we have, is very overwhelmed. I mean, there's so many requirements for them, say, during their day. And one of the things I work in my program is specifically an after school program. And I collaborate with, I'm in Arlington Public Schools. I'm about to open a center for Title I kids. And we're partnered with Virginia Tech and NAACP and the Arlington Public School System and other corporations in the STEM space. And what we've done is we've created an alliance of organizations that are kind of going to create what are called community school, right? We're wrapping around these Title I schools and we're providing informal learning in the form of after school programming, right? So we're sort of plugging in where the school districts, or the school systems are struggling right now to help these neurodiverse students. So I'm a big advocate of after school or informal learning. But also too, I think one of the things that we work with too is advocacy in terms of getting these school districts to recognize the importance of early intervention, right? So whether it's autism, dyslexia, things of that sort, these systems have to start to recognize the importance of identifying something like dyslexia early on and providing the correct intervention and working with their staff to understand how to differentiate their instruction. So it's sort of both a short and long-term play again. I keep saying that, but programs like ours are meant to be what I call the speedboat, right? We can get in there right now. We can affect change right now, right? While the school systems are turning their aircraft carrier, so to speak, right? It takes them a long time to turn, right? So, use that informal learning model, community school model in the short term while these school districts are starting to adapt.
Thanks, Krista. Teresa, any thoughts?
Yeah, so we hit it at a little bit smaller scale, and I want to go back because I saw a question earlier. When we say K-12, kindergarten through 12th grade for us is like primary, secondary school. It's the full length of the school system before they hit universities is what we call K-12. And a Title I school, which Krista kept mentioning, is in our systems are a designation for the lower income schools that need some extra support because those students are struggling with other things and generally in life more than some of the students in some of the non-Title I schools. So those are sort of some terminology there that we keep throwing out. But as MITRE, we've hit, just some short, easy ways to reach some of those students. We do a program every year. We started this a few years ago where before COVID, we brought in a group of 45 students, all on the autism spectrum from across a local county school district. Brought them in for the day with their teachers and their student aides. And we said, look, this is what MITRE does. This is what cybersecurity is. These are all the ways you can get into cybersecurity, which includes law, policy, forensics, coding, hacking, the things you normally think of, right? To sort of broaden their idea. And this is why we want you as autistic students. And not only are we willing to hire you despite your autism, we want you because of it. And here's the path. Here are the schools you could go to that will help support you specifically. Here are the programs that other companies besides us are offering to help you get into their, a career in cybersecurity. And just that day is so mind-blowing to some of these students, and that there's life beyond school. There are people who want me because of this, not despite it. And for the teachers, it was even bigger. Oh, I'm not just trying to push them out the door successfully. There's a place for them to go. There's a reason for me to be teaching them, these life skills. And it's one day every year. This last year, we had 2 different school districts participate, and it was all online and virtual. And that's a way that we can, start reaching down. So we haven't gone past high school. Sorry, Krista's going to help me get farther than that. But it doesn't have to be a whole 12, 13-year program. Those are wonderful. You do have to do that, but you can also inject some of that in little bits.
Thanks, Teresa. Silvia, did you have anything that you wanted to add to the K-12 question?
I will just tell that maybe we are not so huge, but we have a lot of people in cybersecurity. Something that we are doing it. It's part of one of our programs. But go to that to the schools of your kids, of your nephews or whatever, and say, hey, we can have a little talk about cybersecurity. What is cybersecurity, for example, for a kid? What to take care, which will be the impact? Because as you will grow, you will have more impacts. It's more about bullying, cyberbullying, and all that stuff that we are seeing. So maybe we don't need to be so experts. And I think that would be a really, really good example for the girls to say, hey, that's to inspire them to have the curious and say, I want to know that I'm able to do that and I'm capable too. So I think that it's something really simple in a right way to say it. And there will be no dependence. I mean, we can go and say, hey, we are a lot of girls in cybersecurity already. Let's go to the schools. Let's talk about a little and simple thing for kids. And that could be a really good thing that can have too much impact. Not just about the safety of the kids over the digital life, but also over the way that they can see themselves and say, hey, I want to be in the good side. I want to help people to do that. I want to be one of them. So I think that it's something really simple, but there's something that we can do, and we have seen good results.
Thanks, Silvia. I think there's a lot of convergence actually on what you've been talking about, all 3 of you, in the K-12 space, with the recruitment away from those moving off into criminal enterprises and the dark side of cyber, right? I think there's a convergence there, which is the focus is on the youth and on sort of cultivating talent, cultivating diverse talent at very young ages to ensure that they have a pathway, not into, maybe meaningless careers or, sort of careers in the dark side, but a pathway towards, careers in cybersecurity. And so it's interesting convergence there. I don't think we intentionally designed it that way, but what we've been talking about is, again, focusing that workforce development piece further down the educational spectrum. And it starts with sort of the cultivation of talent that you can inspire off into, positions in the cybersecurity workforce. And I want to highlight something that it wasn't a question, but Carol raised it in the chat. And that is, so I want to read what she said. She goes, not really a question, but I wanted to comment that I love seeing women being on your panels. At my college, I'm on a team that sponsors a Women in Technology conference. When she started in IT, she was the minority. And she said, it's nice to see more and more women in IT and STEM related fields. And I'll tell you that if we were to have this panel maybe 5 years ago, maybe you wouldn't have to go that far back. You'd be hard pressed to find a panel that was entirely comprised of women. And I think there's an important sort of nuance to that, in that you serve as sources of inspiration for other women that are looking to test whether or not this is a career path for them. And so I wanna come back to something that Teresa was hitting on earlier, and maybe sort of survey the whole panel. And that is, what are some of the other things? So we move out of the K through 12 space and we start to make our way into the workforce. What are some of the ways in which companies can leverage women and others to recruit into the ranks? In other words, I've heard organizations talk about ensuring that when you're interviewing candidates for tech or cyber jobs, ensure that there's a woman on the hiring panel, or other sort of things like that. What would you say are some of the best practices, in addition to what was already said about ensuring crisp job descriptions that are more inclusive or open?
So I'll start. I would say that the first thing I would say is for those of you who are in any organization, whether it's a university, a company, listening to this, you already have neurodiverse people in your workforce, right? You already have people there. And so the best thing to do is ask, right? You know, what are the best practices? What would help you reach your full potential in this workspace? What would make it a more friendly environment? You know, I saw something in the chat about someone saying, you know, people think of neurodiversity, right? They think of it as disabled, and it's actually not. It's just a different way of thinking, right? So it's sort of about changing a culture, right? To make people understand that this is just, you know, evolution is fueled and accelerated by diversity, right? So it's like you want that diversity of thought. But in terms of specifics, I mean, I would encourage, I mean, I can speak specifically for dyslexia, which is, you know, allowing things like assistive technology. We already have assistive technology at our fingertips. All of us use it every single day with word prediction and things of that sort. But letting people really use the tools that are out there for them to excel, and just like I said, if people could remember anything from what I said today, I think it is, you already have neurodiverse people in your organization, and to really just open yourself up to listening and asking them what they need.
Thanks, Krista. Teresa, anything you wanted to add to that on what employers can do to ensure, you know, more diverse candidate pools?
Pay attention. And I think it goes back to what Krista said, you know, you've already got these folks, and it's not just folks who are neurodivergent. You've got folks there. If you have employee resource groups, if you have, you know, places where these folks are gathering, go be a part of an employee resource group that doesn't look like you or act like you or sound like you, and learn, and it will make you more aware. I'm on our Accessibility Council, which is an employee resource group that focuses on disabilities and accessibility issues. And our first corporate champion was one of our VPs. As he left, he said, this is not hard. It's not about doing really hard things. It's about paying attention so that you know where you're speaking microaggressions, or you know where you start paying attention to the panel, your interview panel, and there's no women here. What happened? You just pay attention and then do the little things to overcome those things that you notice that are wrong. I think it sounds too easy, but it's harder than it sounds, and it is sort of where you have to start. I mean, there's lots of programs. There's things you can do. You can look up Autism at Work employer roundtable. There's a website, lists everybody there, and find out what they're doing. And there's you can bring in a social service provider that'll help you recruit for a disability, especially autism, right? There are big things you can do. I'm doing those things. I'm teaching the government how to do those things. It's another program I didn't mention that we have going right now. But mostly just pay attention.
Thanks, Teresa. And I think pay attention and be intentional. And I think that's what you're implying. Silvia, go for it.
Yeah, for me, it would be just as Teresa and Krista said, it's be conscious. And as she said, it's pay attention. It's just why I don't have work. For me, it's not, I would like to say another thing, and it's because it's a relationship, so it's both sides. So I will say to the people that it's in here, and they said that the people that it's hearing, it's feel capable. Don't go and say, oh no, I need to study, or I'm not so good at this, or we all are valuable. We are awesome. We can also develop new skills. It's not that we need to be perfect or assume that we are perfect. It's, I think that I'm really proud to be here with these awesome learners. Because they are teaching me and they are showing me also that we are the change. It's not that something, just not waiting for the leverage over the managements, over the companies, over, yes, we are doing on our side, and we are a lot of people trying to do this globe more with more inclusion and more diverse, but we also need your help. We need you to apply. We need you to say, hey, I have the courage and I will do it. I'm capable to do it and I will accomplish it. And we will have all the support because we have a lot of people back, but we need you. We need to see you. So don't be afraid. We are all capable. We are just as wonderful as every human being in this globe. So just help us showing yourself. Help us see your talent. Help us find you. And help us to other girls see you and inspire other girls. That's what I will close with that.
Thanks, Silvia. So we have 8 minutes left and still a few questions. So I'm going to try to run through them quickly. And then I'd love to give you a few minutes to provide some sort of closing remarks. One participant asked, from an academic standpoint, do either of you have any recommendations for colleges, universities, or educational content providers to provide learning materials programs that are better suited to attract students with neurodiverse backgrounds?
So you're looking for schools that are doing it right. I mean, there's a College Autism Network, I believe it's called. They put out a big PDF every year that lists all the universities with a strong autism support program. And some of them, pair that up with schools that have strong cybersecurity programs. And you can do that work yourself. I can tell you off the top of my head, Mercyhurst University they have an amazing autism support program and a phenomenal cybersecurity program and a really cool Intel program. I didn't even go there, totally pitching them just because I love them. But they also designed a specific cybersecurity track geared towards their autistic students. And I can't tell you the ins and outs of it, but if you look up Mercyhurst University, I can tell you they've got one that might be worth looking at. There are some schools with some really phenomenal programs out there that some say they do. You really sort of have to go and delve in. I'm learning to find out what kind of strong autism support programs they have, but there are some really cool ones out there. So hit me up. I'll let you know later.
Thanks, Teresa. Krista, you and Mite.
Yes, I did. So I would encourage anyone who's looking specifically in the dyslexia space. There is an advocacy group that is nationwide, and there's different state chapters, and it's called Decoding Dyslexia. And they are an amazing resource for you to check out. They have wonderful lists. They usually, like I said, go state to state. So if you are in Virginia, like I am, they would let you know about the state schools that offer amazing programs for kids with dyslexia. But what you're looking for in university programs is making sure that they have the support structure they need, like resource centers and things of that sort, that allow kids to fully access the curriculum. But If you're looking for specific answers to that, I would recommend Decoding Dyslexia.
Thanks, Krista. Silvia, did you want to add anything to this?
No, I would just want to thank for the space, for the invitation, for this awesome company. And of course, just to encourage and to invite people to, you are the people, you are the persons that help us make the diversity, you are the change. We are the change. So maybe what you are just seeing here, maybe these 3 women, it's just 3 humans that just try, and 3 humans that say, I want to do this, and just did it, and they go for it. We are not so different where we have like 4 hands or something. We're just humans that wanted to accomplish something, and here we are. So I expect to have a lot of more of Krista's, of Teresa's, and that's the way I think that once we see that we are the same, we are humans, we're just humans with skills and talents and awesome things inside, that's the way that we are changing. So just remember that you are capable, that you can go and say, hey, I will try. So don't expect to be perfect all the time. We will never be perfect. And that's the wonderful news. That's the wonderful notice. We will never be perfect. So all the way, it's a great path to try and to accomplish things and to learn. And that's it. So come with us and learn and make this path, and let's be more humans in the good way. In the good.
Yeah. And I saw the question asking if there was some material in Spanish, and I know it's out there. I don't know it off the top of my head. So I know SAP runs some of their program in Latin America, so you might look them up as an example of where they find their programming. There's one I'm going to post here. It is in English as well, and I apologize for that, but it's not out of America. It's out of Australia, called Genius Armory, and it's a free tool where folks can try out cyber. They can learn little bits of lots of different kinds of cyber. Just do that initial bit for free and find out if it is something they would like, and if they want to dig deeper, and then it will point them to some other ways to do that. It is targeting folks who are autistic and other ways neurodivergent, but anyone can use it. It's universally accessible in that way, other than it is in English. But it's a good example of raising interest in cyber and different kinds of cyber roles in a way that is freely accessible. So.
Thanks, Teresa. I wanna, there's 2 more questions I think we can get to in 2 minutes, so we'll do it really, really quick. But Claudia is a 52-year-old dyslexic woman who's learned how to navigate the inside the box world. She just finished a 10-month cybersecurity program to contribute to the good side, but getting into the cyber workforce is challenging because of the 10 years experience. Any advice you wanna offer, Claudia? Teresa, Krista?
Everybody else needs to just change their job recs. That's my biggest, but yeah, play up your strengths. Don't forget to put in the things that seem sort of tangential in your creative thinking, your willingness to learn and delve, and the fact that you pushed yourself to learn something new is something that most employers are really looking for, a type of person that they're looking for, and play that up. Play up the things you did on the side, play up the side projects you did that weren't necessarily part of the education piece, and learn to talk about your own strengths.
Thanks, Teresa.
And I would just quickly like to second that, and and also don't be, one of the things that someone that I know that is dyslexic in this space, said, like, and also just talk about who you are in general and the things that you would need to also be successful on that too.
Thanks, Krista. Okay, we got 1 minute. I'm going to throw this last question. I'm not sure if it's a question or comment. I think it's a little bit of both out there. Whoever wants to take it on, and then I'll toss it back over to Randy so we stay as close on schedule. But I didn't want to miss the opportunity to weave this in. The participant says, what are we doing to include more diverse thought leaders to engage them in solutioning this global problem? Case in point, there are many people of color that are seeking certifications, degrees, and have to clear line of sight to get into the cybersecurity roles due to lack of experience. Any thoughts or comments about that?
I think the internship programs are, like I said, that's my manager apprenticeship program, right? So, injecting things that people would find scary into their lives so they can find out it's not scary, or that they think would be extra hard, or they think it's some sort of insurmountable. So pulling in leaders that way and sort of forcing, as Silvia pointed out, forcing some numbers on them so that they have to, but then also making it as easy as possible for them, I think is one way that we're pulling in those leaders, and also making a safe space where a leader who is dyslexic or autistic or a leader of color can come up and make themselves visible for people to see. I think Silvia talked about that, don't be afraid to make yourself visible and to be that example. And she stole my closing remark several times. Silvia did. It's okay. It was just going to be do it wrong. Do it wrong. You're going to do it wrong. You're not going to have all the answers. You're not going to be perfect at it. Do it anyway. Do it wrong, and then do it right. More right the next time, and then do a little more right the next time. Don't stop doing it because you were wrong. Do it wrong. It's okay. Get better.
Thanks, Teresa. Randy just popped up on my screen, which means that I am out of time and will get in trouble if I don't transition us out. But I want to thank Krista, Teresa, and Silvia for really an engaging and delightful conversation over the last hour. Your work is sort of a testament to, your aspirations to continue to cultivate a diverse workforce that is inclusive and, in my opinion, better prepared to protect us from the emerging threats in cyberspace. So thank you all. And thanks to those that participated. We managed, I think, to get to all the questions, so that's a good thing. And so thanks for your participation. Randy, I cede the floor back to you.
Thanks, Brian. And Teresa, Krista, Silvia, thanks so much for a very insightful panel. But we'll move right on.